Good evening. Have you ever wondered how a person's words can reshape, influence, even entirely change the viewpoints of another, perhaps even multitudes of others? Did you know that this influencing, reshaping, and changing of others' beliefs, values, and attitudes has a name, and that it's brought to fruition through application of very specific communication techniques? What we're talking about is the science and art of persuasion and the rhetorical methods that make it possible: ethos, pathos, and logos. These persuasive devices are ever present throughout the entire communication landscape of life. You see them take place in everyday mundane communications between average Joes, all the way to high stakes discourse between business and governmental leaders that have end results that impact all of mankind. In this presentation, I will define for you the persuasive device of pathos and explain to you how I applied it in a personal communication situation in my own life. Now, pathos, as stated by thesaurus.com, refers to the appeal to emotion. And when it's translated into Greek, it means suffering, experience, or sensation. According to Jeffrey R. Wilson of Harvard University, pathos refers to the speaker's ability to rouse emotions in his audience that will influence their willingness to accept or reject his or her argument. In essence, when we attempt to persuade an audience by compelling them to feel an emotion or a set of emotions, we're using Aristotle's persuasive device of pathos. Per several sources, including our textbooks, effective usage of pathos involves implementation of stories, examples, and vivid language, and it can be a very potent tool of persuasion, as emotional states are powerful drivers of our decisions and actions. Now, in the summer of 2018, a good friend of mine hit a wall of sorts. His drug addiction had begun to take a toll on key aspects of his life. Thus, it was starting to rip his life apart. He knew his addiction was starting to have a detrimental effect on his life when he began forfeiting family time to instead do the things he used to do in his late teens, which were be alone, under the influence, and watch a lot of pornography and hang out in bars late at night. As expected, my friend's wife felt that he was growing distant. Now, the devastation reached a fever pitch when an incident of on-the-job intoxication resulted in him having to resign from a job he loved and was very fond of. Now, ironically, he had a role at a drug rehab as an assistant clinical director. Now, needless to say, my friend was overwhelmed. He was very distraught. He felt shame and a lot of disappointment in himself. However, his addiction was so strong that he couldn't stop using, despite the fact that he saw his life crumbling right before his eyes. About a week or two after losing his job, my friend reached out to me. He wanted to talk and get some heavy thoughts off of his chest. Now, I believe he chose to confide in me because I'm sober and I have a good deal of personal experience with addiction treatment. Now, I looked at his phone call as an opportunity to help him see the light and motivate him to make the hard choice necessary, which was to enter treatment. As such, the persuasive device of pathos was required. I needed to make an appeal to his emotions surrounding this issue. I asked my friend a few questions during our conversation. Number one, I wondered, how does your mom, wife, and child feel about the way that your drug addiction is impacting you? And how would it affect them if your life continued to spiral downward? I also asked him about his memories of the man he used to be prior to his drug addiction taking control. I also asked him how he felt about losing a job that he worked hard to get and was very fond of. In addition to these questions, we discussed several great things that would likely happen in his life and make him much happier if he could only embrace sobriety. Now, this conversation stirred up a lot of strong emotions within him, and it helped him reflect on his situation. What was at risk if he didn't fix it? What it would take to fix it? And how good his life would be if he were to fix it. Approximately 2 weeks after this initial conversation, we spoke again and had another similar conversation. And shortly thereafter, several weeks down the line, my friend made the tough decision to enter inpatient treatment. Now, he's been sober ever since. In this case, the only way to persuade the audience, my friend, was to tug at his heartstrings a little bit. Little did I know that the tugging I was doing is a device of rhetoric invented by some ancient Greek philosopher. Its name, pathos. Thank you very much.